All right. So as we previously learned, atoms are really small. And when we're doing chemistry and chemical reactions, we want to mix our atoms in the right proportions to get the correct chemical reaction to occur. And so our atoms are so tiny, they're too small to count. So how do we add them in the correct proportions? What we do is we count by weighing. So let's take a look at an example of that doesn't include atoms, but will work for our analogy. So let's say you have 121 kilograms of eggs. How many eggs do you have? And so if you've got 121 kilograms, that's like about 250-ish pounds. That's a lot of eggs. So if you try to count this by hand, it's just going to take forever. And so what you could do instead is you can get some additional information and then you can count by weighing, right? So some additional info you could get is you could get about a dozen eggs and see how much they weigh. So we're just going to say that 1 dozen eggs weigh 0.720 kilograms, right? So you took some eggs, you weighed them, and then this is how much a dozen weighs. And so what we see is we have a conversion factor, right, between the number of eggs and their weight. So we could write that as 1 dozen eggs over 0.720 kilograms of eggs, or we could write that as 0.720 kilograms of eggs over 1 dozen eggs, right? So remember that these conversion factors are flippable. You can have it flip whichever way you need it. And then, of course, we know that 1 dozen eggs is equal to 12 eggs, right? So that's another conversion factor, right? So we could write 1 dozen eggs over 12 eggs, or we could write 12 eggs over 1 dozen eggs. And so now we've got all of our conversion factors. Let's go ahead and try to take our information and then try to figure out how many eggs we've got here. So we'll start with the thing that isn't a conversion factor. So that's just our 121 kilograms of eggs. And then immediately I know that kilograms of eggs is going to go down here in the bottom. And then I just look for where it's at, right? There's kilograms of eggs. I have kilograms of eggs right here. So I just transplant that number, 0.720, and then 1 dozen eggs goes above there. The kilograms and the kilograms go ahead and cancel out. And now I'm at dozen eggs. So I know dozen eggs is going to have to go down here in the bottom. And then I just take a look at where it's at. Here I've got 1 dozen eggs right there. So 1 on the bottom, 12 on the top, and the dozen cancels out with the dozen. Do the math and you get 2016.6 repeated eggs. If we think about what we've got here, we've got 3 sig figs. This conversion factor also only has 3 sig figs. The 1 to 12, that's an exact, that's counting, so that's exact. And so our answer should at the end only have 3 sig figs. So that's that 2 spot right there. So we get to 2020 eggs. And so this technique is going to work with a lot of things in chemistry. They're too small to count, so we count by weighing. So next up, we'll check out how we do that.